Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. So today I wanted to kick off the first video in a new video series that I'm going to be working on in a very casual, ad hoc sort of way, which is sharing some Arduino programming or microcontroller programming tips and tricks that I've come across over the years. So I've been programming with Arduinos and related microcontrollers for maybe like 6 or 7 years or so. And I don't do it every day, all day long, but about half of my projects do require Arduino programming, and it is very common for me to be spending 40 hours, 50 hours a week writing firmware for an embedded system or an installation or something like that. And anyways, over the years, over my time doing this, the way that I do it has evolved as I learn new tips and tricks and better ways of doing things and cleaner ways of doing things and so on. And I just wanted to create this new video series that shares some of these tips and tricks with you. So this will be the first video in the series, and this one is going to be about creating your own sort of printing utility library, or even just kind of creating your own library in general. With Arduino sort of stuff. So this is something that comes up that I just started doing relatively recently, and it's because I had a project where there's some data logging involved with it on the microcontroller. Microcontroller itself then sort of prints out all these data logging data points, and then those data points are then actually what I'm interested in, but they have to be printed out in a very kind of consistent, pretty way, and it became very hard to manage printing out so many different variables and so many different things and getting them to consistently look well. And there are some programs that have, these sort of pretty print features or whatever, but I just wanted to share a few real quick and easy ones that I personally have done that I found very useful in developing my software, and hopefully you'll find useful as well. So the first thing that I guess I want to go over is just how good of an idea it is to put a lot of these helper utility functions in their own classes, or if not in their own classes, at least in their own file, and then having a repository where they all are stored, and then at any point you can go and reference that repository, gather the code that you've already written to do something, and then use that code in your new project. And this ultimately will save you a lot of time in the long run, and it may be more labor intensive to write the code in a way that is general purpose and can be reused, but by doing this, you're going to make your life a lot easier later on, and you're not going to rewrite code nearly as much. You can just focus on the stuff that's interesting and the stuff that's new, as opposed to just redoing the same sort of print helper function over and over again. That being said, so let's say we have a use case where we have a setup loop here, and then we're printing a bunch of stuff. So we're like, data log results are, and then we want to have a divider here. Oops, this should have been a println. And then let's say we do that for our divider. And then we have, let's pretend like this is a real program and we have a bunch of data, right? So we have 23. And then we have another really wonderful numbers, 12. And so on and so forth, right? So we're printing a bunch of variables, and then let's say at the end we want to separate those variables that we're printing, and then we want to say the data log has finished printing, and then maybe we want to give another like little divide before the beginning of the main program, right? All right, so let's say we do this. And then this is great, this is fine, this is dandy, we compile it, it will compile to, it'll compile fine, I'll upload onto Arduino, and then bring the serial monitor over here, and let's reset our Arduino. Oh, we forgot a very important thing, right, which is serial begin 57600, and oftentimes it's good to give the serial a little bit of time to just sort of stabilize, and then come to terms, let everything on the Arduino finish booting, all the voltages stabilized and so on, and then start actually sending message to the serial printer. Because oftentimes if you just initialize the wire bus or the serial bus immediately and then start sending messages through it like the next millisecond, you run into these issues where a lot of those first messages are dropped as the voltage levels are settling and these other issues are present. So it's a good thing to give it a little bit of time to stabilize, and then you won't really lose any messages. So and this I've had to use values as high as 5 seconds before for this, but it's only in circumstances where it is really critical that I get every single character printed to the display. So yeah, you can see I restarted it and I still actually am not getting a message. So let's actually move this up to 5 seconds, which is probably too long. We can kind of fiddle with it and find something that's in the medium later on, but just for now, I think we want to actually see it and have it print. All right, cool. So that gave us enough time. And then the data logging results are cool, great. It printed the data. However, we have some issues, right? So one of the issues is that the lines, the divider lines, both of them are not the same length, actually. They're different lengths, which is not a big deal, but visually is a little traumatizing. And also, like, we forgot the ln after the minor divider before data log is finished printing, and then we have that issue there. So how can writing our own printing functions help with this? One printing function that I like to write, and I keep in a file that I add to almost every Arduino project that I do, is printing divides. So what we can do here is this is a void function, and we'll create a function for each one of these printing utils we have. And we're just going to write them here in the main program, but later on we'll move them to their own file and then create a class out of it. So we'll call this one print divide. And then inside print divide, we're going to have a standardized divide. And then now, here, we will call print divide and we know that those will always be the same length, and visually it'll look nice. So that's awesome, right? And then there's many different ways to do the print divide functions. Oftentimes, like, I'll also have like a print minor divide. Or I do in my my actual class. So the print minor divide will be the same thing as the print divide, except for I'll go in and like take out every other one of these, for instance. So it's the same characters as the regular print. Anyways, so you get the point, right? So pretend like I finished that. We got the print minor divide. Another way you can go about it is you can have a print divide that takes in a message, right? So we'll call this string message. And then what we can do is we can take our divide there. Oops. So we'll take our divide here. We'll cut this in the middle, add a space. Then we'll serial print the message in the middle. And then finish the lines afterwards. And then this we don't want to be a print ln. Great. Sometimes you know, you want to have an extra line after the divide. So you can always do add an extra serial print ln here, and then do print divide ln, for instance, right? All right, sweet. So that pretty much wraps it up for the print divides. The next video, I'm going to talk real briefly about how to make your own sort of debug print functions, which are similar to print divides. The next video, I'm going to talk real briefly about how to move our print divides and debug prints into a little class that we can then call, store, and then yeah, we'll be all good to go. Cool. Well, yeah, so hopefully you like this new series. I'm just going to focus on hopefully these shorter videos that cover just tips with Arduino programming and how to insert some sort of C++ or C programming techniques and strategies to your Arduino code to make things a lot easier to manage, a lot easier to keep track of, to debug, a more pleasant overall programming experience for you, and so on and so forth. So thanks for watching.